Eagles win 25-20. Now let's just recap a little bit of the last moments of this game. The Eagles looked like they were in control until Jalen Hurts on a scramble was hit and fumbled. New England recovered at the Eagles' 41. 3 minutes and change left, so they've got a chance to get back in the game. Patriots can't do anything on that drive. But they get it back with 1:50 left in the game after the Eagles go for it on 4th and 2 at midfield and don't convert. So they get another chance, and Mac Jones couldn't get the team down the field again, although the last pass was ruled a completion to Kayshon Boutte, and then in looking at it further, it was out of bounds. He didn't get his foot down. That was with 51 seconds left, 3rd and 13, so the Eagles survived 25-20. It is time for the player you can bank on, presented by Firsttrust Bank, the official bank of the Philadelphia Eagles, and bring in Mark Farzetta. Farzy, who is the player you can bank on today, my brother?
I mean, I think the player we have to bank on today was Kenny Gainwell throughout this game. He was the sure-handed guy that they had really from start to finish, and he was one of the only guys you could rely on consistently. And we were having all this debate to the point where the Eagles actually had 4 or 5 different guys at one point as their first-team running backs. And then he turned out to be the quote-unquote bell cow back for this team. But really, I mean, you look at Jalen Hurts in this game, not his best stuff. Of course, overlooking Dallas Goedert. You guys obviously mentioned the fumble already. There's a lot of concerns there. But they can't continue to ride Kenny Gainwell the way they were throughout this football game. And then on top of that, I'll talk about an unbankable person in this game. Brian Johnson. I mean, if you were going to have a pass-fail grade for Brian Johnson in his first game as a play caller in the NFL, I believe you would file this under epic fail for him. But if it goes to the offense, the one guy that you could definitely bank on was Kenny Gainwell.
All right, what did you think Brian Johnson should have done more today?
Well, one thing I think he should have was allow his quarterback to make a couple more plays, with the exception of not trying to make a play with his legs like he did on that fumble play. First off, if you're Brian Johnson, you don't call a quarterback draw in that situation. Why put your quarterback or the ball in peril at all? And if you're Jalen Hurts, just slide, baby. Just slide. You already had some yards out there for you. You already cut into it a little bit. That would have been a better opportunity. But as far as everything else, I needed to see Dallas Goedert not getting a target in the first half. I know that you had Jalen Hurts overlook him on that huge play that ended up being an incompletion that he just threw away. But you got to find a way to get other playmakers the ball. They did that more with A.J. Brown in the second half, did a little bit more with Devontae Smith. But in that first half, I would have liked to see Dallas Goedert part of the game plan more.
You know, guys, we were talking about Dallas Goedert coming into this year, reaching Travis Kelce level as one of those premier tight ends who could really be a game-breaking play. He got one target the whole game, and that's incomprehensible to me. I agree with you, Seth. You got to target these kind of players and get them involved in the game. There's so much a part of it. I mean, all right, A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith got 10 targets apiece. We expect that. They each had 7 catches. But Goddard is just a tremendous weapon in this offense, and it looked like they ignored him.
He's too good for him not to be implemented in what they do. It's just, you know, I get it. There's only one ball to go around, and you got, you know, wide receiver 1 and wide receiver 1A. And they're a big part of what you do. But with all the focus on them, I'm telling you, he throws the ball deep to A.J. Brown. A.J.'s got 2 guys on him. That means that somebody's got to be open. Dallas Goedert is running free, okay? There's not a single safety, there's not a single linebacker in the National Football League that can cover Dallas Goedert one-on-one. So why? Why is he not? Where's the plays that you have developed in this offense that are drawn up in certain coverages that are drawn up for Dallas Goedert? And when you're going through your pre-snap read as a quarterback and you're game planning as an OC and as a head coach, because I'm sure that Nick Sirianni is still involved, okay, Jalen, this is the check we want to make. And Jalen, Dallas Goedert becomes the primary when we get this look, okay? If we got cover 2 high safety, send him screaming up the middle of the field. Let's split the safeties and see if they collapse on him. Now we got either, you know, the post or the post corner away from it that you can go back to. But it's just incomprehensible. I felt the same way last year. They do not utilize the weapon that is Dallas Goedert enough in this offense.
Let me ask you
only
one
touch.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Dallas Goedert's only look came with 13:56 left in the fourth quarter. That's inexcusable.
So was the moment today a little too big for Brian Johnson that he didn't realize that he should get him involved as one of his major weapons?
It's a good question. But there were times when Dallas was open and Hurts went in another direction. That's not the Jalen Hurts we're accustomed to seeing. So was it the offense in general trying to shake cobwebs all game? Did Belichick's pressure, consistent pressure, especially in that first half, rattle Jalen? He wasn't able to dip outside like he normally does, to pick up first downs at will, to pick up yards up the middle at will. Was he rattled by that Patriots defense? We may never know that answer because, Jalen may not reveal that. Obviously, you're tipping your hand to somebody else going down the road. Oof. But it wasn't like Goddard wasn't open in this game.
A couple times, and I agree, Seth, that not playing in the preseason, he was affixed on that one thing instead of being the Jalen that we saw last year. But again, if you're the offensive coordinator, you got somewhere it's got to dawn on you. Hey, I haven't gotten the ball to my tight end, one of my major weapons. I need to maybe zero in on that in a play call here.
Well, I'll say this, and I tell people all the time, this offense, more so than any other offense, like when you run RPOs and you run read options, you know what happens? It's the quarterback that's making the decisions, okay? The players call. You can't blame Brian Johnson if the defense plays it a certain way and he either hands it off or he decides to keep it. That all falls on the decision making. That's why that play is so effective. But at the other end of the spectrum, sometimes it's just a player's call and they're running it from the pocket. There's no RPO, no read option, attached to it, and Dallas Goedert might be on the left. His read might be right to left, and sometimes he never gets back over there, So sometimes you just never know. There's a whole lot of – it's real easy sometimes for us to sit back and say the offensive coordinator failed or Jalen Hurts read it the wrong way, but we just don't know. We don't know how the play is designed. We don't know what it is that Jalen saw that make him look right instead of look left. It's hard to say.
I do want to know why DeAndre Swift wasn't more of an integral part in this offense. That's what they brought him in here for, to be a game changer. He had one rush and one pass
and
reception.
one target.
He had a total of what? 2 yards in the entire game?
He had 2 targets. He had 1 catch for 0.
Yes, one run for what? 1 yard?
He had one rush for 3 yards. I agree with you. I don't understand that either. Getting the ball out of the backfield and putting him in space, I thought was going to be a weapon for them this year.
And I'm sure it will be.
What did we miss with DeAndre Swift today? Why wasn't he part of the game plan?
I want to go back to Dallas Goedert first. Farzy, did you ever think that you see a game where Quez Watkins would get more targets than Dallas Goedert?
I did not, especially going into this
That's
season.
what happened today.
And when we were talking about it on pregame, the bigger questions were on the defensive side of things. I mean, we're looking at this offense, rightfully so, I think, as if it's an embarrassment of riches. I mean, you have a lot of tools in the tool shed if you're Brian Johnson. And did it feel like you were using those tools appropriately throughout this game? Absolutely not. So the expectation did not meet what the reality of this game was, unfortunately. Whether it was Dallas Goedert, whether it was DeAndre Swift, whoever it was. I mean, look, as much as we've heard from John McMullen for really throughout the entire offseason, talking about a guy like Kenny Gainwell, like he was going to be this great weapon, he was going to be the number 1 guy, that even exceeded my expectations for what you were going to see from Kenny Gainwell. And if DeAndre Swift was going to be utilized as the weapon we have seen him be in his career, I thought this would have been a great game to kind of put that on display. Instead, you zeroed on about 1 or 2 guys, offensively speaking, and you did not use all the tools that you had access to.
8 Patriots caught balls today, by the way, and he threw to 9. Butte is the only one that didn't get a reception, and he almost had the biggest one of the game. Yeah. 35 completions for Mac Jones. What did that say, D?
Basically, it told me that they have got to tighten up their coverage. And again, it goes back to 2 things. They have not done enough to improve at defending in the middle of the field, and they have young players in the middle who are growing before our very eyes. And along the way, it's going to take some time for that thing to gel. And you're going to incorporate another young player eventually in Sidney Brown, which means you're going to have 3 young players who are growing. Terrell Edmonds obviously is not the answer, or he would have started today. So I said, like on the pregame show, when Mike Tomlin gets rid of a defensive player still in his prime, that's a big question mark. Terrell Edmonds didn't do much of anything in training camp, didn't do much of anything in preseason games. Obviously, to the point the coaches decided he's not what we needed. Matt Patricia and Sean decided he's not what we needed to start this game. All right, you've got 2 veteran corners on the outside. You're loaded along the defensive line. The mindset has to be, we have enough surrounding these young players. We can cover up their deficiencies until they get up to speed.
Seth, I want to ask you an analytical question because I know you're well versed in the analytics of football. You embrace it. So when they're going for it on 4th and 2 in midfield, what are the analytics telling them? Because here's Mike's analytics. Mike's analytics are if you punt the football down there and you get New England to take the ball at the 10, they don't have the firepower to come down on your defense, do they? To score a touchdown? Is that not the better analytical look at it?
So let me set the record straight on Seth Joyner and analytics. Okay?
Here we go.
Okay.
Here we go.
I was utilizing analytics before analytics was even a thing, okay? Because even though we got the computer printout every week when I was playing, I still would study the film and I would chart every play, every formation, how many times they ran the ball, how many times they passed the ball, what they liked, on the plus or the minus side and what the down and distance was. So I'm a major advocate for analytics as a tool to help you, analyze what's going on in the game and what the tendencies are. I'm not a fan of it when it begins to seep into the decision making from the coach's position, and you see that too much now. Instead of them going with their gut, instead of them going with the common sense thing, they go with the numbers. What do the numbers say? Well, the numbers say that if you convert this first down, the possibilities of you winning or the probabilities of you winning the football game goes up 25%. Now the coach, while he's thinking about what he wants to call, he's got the analytics guy in his ear that's feeding him this information. So your decision making is swayed in a lot of ways from what your gut would normally tell you. Okay, Nick Sirianni has no business going for it for 4th and 2 with the ball at midfield
in a close game.
In a close game like that, you punt the ball and make them go 80 yards down the field, and make them score and win the game that way. But to give them a short field and your defense is already gashed because their offenses run many, many more plays than you run.
Listen, risk-reward is part of an analytical analysis, right? So here's the risk-reward. If you don't make it, that's the only way they can win, New England, right? Isn't that the risk-reward of it?
True.
But they don't look at it in those terms. It's the percentage based upon the analytics, okay? And the analytics doesn't say, well, if you don't make it, and this is the thing I keep telling you guys and I keep telling people, okay? When it comes to analytics, it removes all the accountability out of the picture, okay? Because when a coach makes a decision and it doesn't work out, who's to blame? Because if somebody questions him about it, guess what? Oh, the book said or the numbers say that, this is what we should do. So my decision is based upon the numbers. Instead of the coach being accountable for it, he could just pass it off on the analytics.
Before the analytics, okay, first of all, who was the best 4th down team in the NFL last year?
The Eagles.
The Philadelphia Eagles.
Yeah.
Most of their stuff was based on the analytics. Mm-hmm. So the fact that they went for it at a crucial point of a game in 4th and 2 doesn't surprise me, yet it does, because the old school way of thinking is you protect the lead at all costs. Like Seth said, kick it as far as you can down the field, make them run. Now this wasn't a Buffalo, a Kansas City offense. This was the Patriots, a very methodical offense. The probability of them going 80 yards on you is slim and none.
Exactly.
So the fact that you gave them a short field and put your team in jeopardy of losing this game. Now, luckily for you, it came out on the positive side. But you never should have put yourself in that situation.
Logical analytics should have trumped over numerical analytics in that particular situation.
Yes. Listen, there is no logic in analytics. That's why they've come to the place where they've taken over the game. It just isn't. I mean, Mark, I'm watching this thing and I'm saying to myself, you got to be kidding me. You have to be kidding me that they're actually now. And to D Gunn's point, yeah, the Eagles were the number 1 team on fourth down situations. But if you go back and you study those numbers, the majority of those conversions were 4th and 1 or less, where they could get in their little bunch and they push the pile.
Yeah, analytics are easy when you know a play works about 96% of the time. So, I mean, you can put the analytics. I mean, I know they'll invoke that, and I know that makes sense to them, and I get it. But I think in this particular instance, boot that field as far away from the end zone as possible.
Absolutely.
I mean, you talk about the logical. I mean, let's forget about it's not logical. It's obvious. that's what you do. You
Kick
get that
it- kick
football
it to the-
away as far as humanly possible.
Kick it to the concession stands if you have to.
Maybe it's just another hit of the confidence of Aaron Sipos.
Yeah,
they don't
even
trust
if you
him.
kick it in the end zone, it's a win. All right, one last thing before we get to a break, and then Kayla Santiago will join us, our new member of our cast. Are they going to have this linebacker covering tight ends, safety covering tight ends, slot guys covering tight ends? I don't think Maddox had a great game today either. They caught 8 balls. Their tight ends caught 8 balls today. Is this going to continue to happen? I mean, are we shortchanging this linebacker covering a tight end situation again?
No, a lot of linebackers cover tight ends in the National Football League, but you're talking about a smaller backer, especially in the middle end of the Kobe Dean. Very athletic, very solid player, very fast player. But a lot of times it's going to be a mismatch. He's 6'2". A lot of these tight ends now 6'5", 6'6". You know, and if you have a quarterback who's a little bit more accurate and sees things a little quicker, it's a nightmare for a linebacker. I don't care how good he is, because the offense knows, and the guy running the route knows where he's going with the ball. The defense has to anticipate what's going to happen. It's not a knock against the linebacker. It's just the nature of the matchup.
It is because you know the problem with trying to get linebackers to be, you know, to cover tight ends is the fact that there's a flaw with linebackers in the National Football League now, because the majority of them don't know how, technically or fundamentally, to cover a tight end. You know, it's like even on Reed Blankenship when he got beat for that touchdown. So he had the tight end, he had Henry in man coverage, but he's 4 to 5 yards off. Okay, and when Henry gives him the out and up move, he gets caught behind the tight end, and that's the worst place you want to be, is behind. If I've got inside technique and I'm man-to-man, I want to be a yard inside and a yard behind. Why? Because the minute that he takes it up, I'm in the throwing lane. I can close the throwing window. But when you get behind him, that window's wide open. And now you got a tight end that's 6'5", 6'6". You don't stand a chance, even if you put his ass on a ladder.
Look at the touchdown catch that Hunter Henry had in this game. Okay? 6'5", he had a DB on him who was 6 foot. Now, Mac Jones put it in a perfect spot. The DB had good coverage. There's nothing he could do with the ball was just in the right spot. Unless you have a 6'3", 6'4" safety or cornerback on these guys, like a Richard Sherman type guy, the probability of a good quarterback putting it in a spot that the DB can't get when he's outmatched by 5 or 6 inches, they're going to win that matchup 9 times out of 10.
But you can win that matchup if you play it technically the right way, okay? If I got that tight end, there's no need of me being 4 or 5 yards off of him, and we're on the 15 to 10 yard line. Okay, if I got him, I'm going to get up. I'm going to get up in him. I'm going to take the inside away. I'm going to jam him to throw the timing off. Okay, but when you don't get up and you don't play more aggressive from a man posture, now you give the guy a two-way go, and the linebacker's trying to guess. He's trying to figure out, is he going right or is he going left? But if I get up and I take away the inside, I force him to release where I want him to go. And now I can get on his inside hip 1 yard behind and 1 yard inside, and I got a better chance even if he's got 3, 4, 5 inches on me.
All right. I'm Mike Missinelli, Derek Gunn, Seth Joyner, Mark Farzetta, and coming up, Kayla's Diamond Debate. Yes, we still have the Diamond Debate going on. Kayla Santiago, our new member of the JAKIB Media post-game cast, will join us right after this, live from Ocean Casino. It is the Pond Lehocky Eagles post-game show. We're back.
And good play calling along the way. First and goal at the 6.
On the field of life, Firsttrust Bank is there for you.
Champions on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Because Philadelphia dreams deserve a Philadelphia bank.